David Mack, a former Los Angeles police officer, was found with the same ammunition used in the murder of Biggie Smalls, with the bullets being found buried under the floorboards of his home during a police search in 1997.
Biggie Smalls was murdered using armor-piercing Gecko 9mm bullets. These type of bullets have been listed as rare in the FBI files on Biggie's death, with the certain type being labeled as metal piercing, are usually authorized for the use of military personnel, with it then being sold on through military surplus sales. It is common for large police jurisdictions such as the LAPD or the NYPD to be given surplus items from the military for free, such as ammunition, armored vehicles, and other equipment. This is done so that the military can retire old equipment and upgrade to something new instead of wasting money on repairs, and additionally so that the police can acquire new equipment without spending tax money on new equipment. This can give police departments access to military-grade ammunition and weaponry. These same bullets were found buried under the floorboards of a LAPD officer's home 7 months after the Biggie Smalls murder had taken place, with this same officer later being listed as a suspect in a wrongful death lawsuit filed by Biggie's family. The ammo type, which is imported from Europe, is only distributed within 2 places in the US, which is in California and New Jersey. The FBI tried to find other crimes committed using the same ammo type, but couldn't find other incidents of the specific type being used, which would link it back to the Biggie Smalls murder. In this video, we're going to take a look into the rare ammo type which was used to murder Biggie and how it was connected to an LAPD officer. Biggie was shot from a car while his truck was stopped at a red light outside the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles, with the crime taking place on March 9th, 1997. The investigation had come to find that a rare ammo type had been used in the crime. Biggie had been hit 4 times with armor-piercing Gecko 9mm bullets. The bullets are specifically made to penetrate through body armor and strong metals. FBI files on the investigation into Biggie's murder reveal how the rounds are imported from Germany and then distributed at the time by only 2 US distributors. One distributor is in Corona, California, and the other is the US offices of Dynamite Noble in Gloucester, New Jersey. The bullets are Gecko 9x19 steel-cased copper ammo, which is manufactured to be metal piercing, with the bullets being imported from Germany, having the casings created by Hertenberger Defense Systems. A Californian distributor of the ammo revealed in a magazine in 1982 how the Gecko ammunition at that time was also used by the FBI along with the Secret Service. There is an argument online regarding the ammo being listed as armor-piercing, as some claim it is not, and it is what is known as Blitz Action Trauma Round Action 1 ammunition, which is not armor-piercing but deforms inside a person's body. A magazine entry claims that these rounds are designed not to leave an exit wound getting stuck inside a person's body. The rounds were stuck inside Biggie's body and the holes had closed due to his fat levels, which caused no external bleeding.
And when we got him out the car, he wasn't bleeding at all.
390 pounds. Big has extra fat tissue that pushes down on the bullets and traps blood inside the chest wall.
The FBI files, however, claim that the specific bullets used were the Gecko 9mm metal-piercing bullets. Biggie's autopsy report was leaked 15 years after the murder had taken place, with it revealing 3 out of the 4 rounds which had hit him were non-fatal, with it being a single fatal bullet which had travelled through his colon, liver, heart and lungs before coming to a stop in his left shoulder. A 9mm blue steel pistol with the Gecko bullets was used, being fired 6 times with 4 of the shots hitting Biggie. Michael Douglas Carlin, co-author of the book Chaos Merchants, who had wrote it with the Biggie Smalls murder detective Russell Paul, claimed that an LAPD officer was on the scene kicking the shell casings away from the crime scene, leaving them scuffed up. These same bullets and a 9mm were discovered buried under the floorboards of a former LAPD Rampart cop who was later listed in a wrongful death lawsuit by Biggie's family. The FBI files reveal how Biggie had Inglewood police officers working for him while he was in Los Angeles. The list of officers in the documents remain redacted, but some include the drivers of Biggie's truck, with Puffy and Biggie's trucks being arranged as Suburbans with government chips installed within them, which meant that the trucks were unable to achieve high speeds, as the chip would cut off the fuel supply, forcing the trucks to slow down. Puffy's bodyguard Gene Deal had attempted to chase the suspect's vehicle following the shooting, but the government chip within the truck didn't allow him to catch up with the shooter's car, as the truck was forced to slow down, making the chase impossible. The FBI files claim law enforcement officers, which the documents abbreviate as LEOs, are said to be on secret surveillance video as being involved in the crime. The files also contain a redacted list of law enforcement officers who were working under Right Way Security. Right Way Security was a protection service which Book Labyrinth claims that Suge Knight had loaned a former Compton cop by the name of Reggie Wright Jr. $300,000 to begin a protection service for his West Coast record label called Death Row Records, which employed law enforcement officers. The FBI files reveal a connection between the LAPD and the Compton Piru Blood Street Gang, with the redacted files reading, quote, "Redacted, who is a Compton Piru Blood gang member, redacted, was arrested in a Redondo Beach sting operation. Redacted LAPD detective redacted stole vehicles for redacted activities," unquote. The files continue to describe how the Compton Piru gang member and the LAPD detective were best friends. Author Randall Sullivan and the FBI files reveal how David Mack had claimed he was both a member of the Nation of Islam along with the Blood Street Gang in LA. Suge Knight, who was in a feud with Biggie's label head Sean Puffy Combs, was affiliated with the Compton Mob Piru Street Gang. The FBI files claim that LAPD cops who had claimed to be Blood gang members were helping out Compton Pirus on a street with criminal activities. The Chaos Merchant book, written by Michael Douglas Carlin and LAPD detective Russell Paul, reads, quote, "The LAPD knew, or reasonably should have known, that its off-duty police officers worked as security guards alongside suspected and convicted criminals for Death Row Records. In fact, the off-duty police officers accompanied gang members during drug deals and acted as their lookouts and advisors. Moreover, the off-duty officers monitored police frequencies, assisted in choosing locations for drug transactions, and shared information regarding police tactics," unquote. The book claims that Suge Knight was heard to say, quote, "Well look, we can't have our homies out here basically carrying guns. We want to legalize this. Let's set up our own Death Row Security under another name," unquote. The book continues to read that it was a set just like the Bloods and Crips, but it consisted of law enforcement personnel who had badges and guns and were paid to avert problems for those under the protection of Death Row Records, unquote. Only one cop from the Rampart Division has been linked to Death Row Records, being through Nightlife Management, which was owned by Suge Knight's ex-wife Sharifa Knight. Kevin Gaines was a LAPD Rampart cop who was murdered just 9 days after Biggie was killed, being murdered by a fellow LAPD cop. The investigation found out that Kevin Gaines was secretly dating Suge Knight's ex-wife Sharifa Knight, with her later revealing how Gaines would supply security jobs to his fellow cops for Death Row artist Snoop Dogg, who would pay them in cash. Kevin Gaines had dominion over the LAPD Pacific Division's evidence locker, which is where key evidence went missing from during Snoop Dogg's 1993 murder case, which got him acquitted in 1996. The Chaos Merchant's book lists Kevin Gaines as a likely accomplice in the disappearance of this evidence. Russell Paul also claimed in the LAPD Blues episode of PBS Frontline how he feels as if he has evidence from his own investigation which tied Kevin Gaines into assisting the Blood Pirus in drug trafficking. Rampart cops David Mack and Rafael Perez have also been associated to Death Row Records, being by affiliates such as C-Style and Snoop Dogg's cousin Joe Cool, who have claimed to have witnessed them providing security while being interviewed for the 2021 documentary Last Man Standing. Suge Knight, along with Reggie Wright Jr., have both denied ever knowing David Mack and Rafael Perez and claim they have never worked for Death Row. FBI agent Phil Carson in Season 2 Episode 1 of a podcast called The Dossier had revealed the unredacted version of the FBI files, which claim Rampart cop Rafael Perez had shot dead a suspect who was about to shoot David Mack, with David Mack allegedly going on to claim that he owes his life to Rafael Perez and would do anything for him. Rafael Perez was a LAPD Rampart cop who was responsible for revealing the LAPD Rampart scandal, being after he was caught stealing drugs out of the evidence locker. David Mack can be seen in this photo wearing Blood Gang colors, pictured with fellow LAPD cops Rafael Perez and Sammy Martin. The FBI files claim LAPD officers were identified at the party which Biggie was at and were seen talking on cell phones prior to the hit taking place. Rafael Perez's former cellmate Kenneth Boagni had claimed that Perez had told him that he allegedly acted as a spotter during the murder and had called David Mack on the cell phone, who allegedly was coordinating the hit, to give him the location of Biggie and Puffy. Former LAPD detective Russell Paul, who was in charge of investigating the Biggie Smalls murder, claimed he believed Mack, if involved, had been allegedly monitoring police frequencies during this time, while allegedly coordinating the hit. Biggie's family sued the LAPD in the city of Los Angeles in a wrongful death lawsuit for $500 million in 2005. The lawsuit was based on information put forward by LAPD detective Russell Paul, who claimed LAPD Rampart Division cops were allegedly involved in the murder of Biggie Smalls. The lawsuit had included what was dubbed as the $1 million testimony. It was called this as the LAPD were fined $1.1 million for suppressing the testimony of Rafael Perez's former cellmate. Rafael Perez was sentenced to 5 years in prison in the year of 2000 after he had been caught stealing a large quantity of drugs out of the evidence locker, which investigators believe were going to be used to frame Kevin Gaines' murderer, being a fellow cop called Frank Liger. Perez had exposed the rampart corruption scandal of the LAPD, which was one of America's worst police corruption scandals in history. For revealing the scandal, Perez received a reduced sentence of only a year in prison. During a time for a month, Perez had a cellmate by the name of Kenneth Boagni. Kenneth Boagni's former statements, which were once suppressed, were included as official court documents in a civil suit against the LAPD. The documents are transcripts of what Perez had allegedly told Kenneth Boagni about the Biggie Smalls murder while Perez was intoxicated on prison hooch. Boagni claimed Perez had drunkenly implicated at least 5 LAPD Rampart officers as being involved in the orchestration of the murder of Biggie Smalls. Boagni claimed Perez had named himself along with officers Nino Durden, David Mack, Kevin Gaines, and Sammy Martin. The cellmates' transcripts read of how Perez described how David Mack had allegedly reached out to a man called Amir Muhammad to provide assistance in the event. Amir Muhammad was a member of the Nation of Islam and was also the godparent of David Mack's kids, with him also attending college with David Mack. The FBI reports revealed how the cops were also identifying as Muslims. Kenneth Boagni claimed that Perez had allegedly divulged that Amir Muhammad had allegedly have been a hitman for the Nation of Islam. Film producer and host of the Dossier podcast Don Sikorsky had revealed how Amir Muhammad had financial ties to Corona, California, which is also the same place where the gecko ammo used in the Biggie Smalls murder can be sourced from. Puffy's bodyguard Gene Deal identified Amir Muhammad in the 2002 documentary Biggie and Tupac, describing him as dressed in a suit and bow tie approaching Gene and Puffy while outside the Peterson Automotive Museum while they were waiting for the trucks to pull up. Gene Deal claims to have flashed his gun at Amir, with Amir then walking off into the direction of the shooter's vehicle. Boagni named ex-cops and lawyers as sourcing $250,000 up front to go to the Rampart cops, with them being told it was from Death Row Records, with a remaining $750,000 up for grabs after the hit was complete. Boagni claimed Perez had told him how the hit was for both Biggie and Puffy, and the full amount was not paid over, as Kevin Gaines had failed to intercept Puffy's car. This was corroborated by Gene Deal, who was in the car with Puffy, as he had told their driver to run the next 3 lights, with Biggie's car being driven by an Inglewood police officer not following the same protocol, leaving him as a sitting duck at the lights. A black SS Chevy Impala with chrome wheels was waiting in a parking spot on the corner aside Biggie's car, which was stopped at the lights. The car contained one person dressed in a suit and bow tie who used a 9mm blue steel pistol with the Gecko ammunition to carry out the hit. Kevin Gaines was murdered by a fellow cop 9 days after the Biggie Smalls murder had taken place, with detectives then finding out that Gaines was having an affair with Suge Knight's ex-wife, establishing a connection of the Rampart division into Death Row Records. Kevin Gaines' locker was searched, where laminated photos of Tupac and Suge Knight were found, which were taped to the back of the locker. David Mack carried out a bank robbery in November of 1997, 9 months after the Biggie murder, where he had robbed $722,000, which still remains unaccounted for. David Mack and Rafael Perez went to Las Vegas a few days after the bank robbery. Kenneth Boagni claimed Perez had told him how the money was allegedly used to pay Amir Muhammad. David Mack was arrested in December of 1997 for the bank robbery. His home was searched and the police had found numerous 9mm weapons, along with the same Gecko ammunition, which was buried under the floorboards of his house. A black SS Chevy Impala with chrome wheels was found in his garage, which matched the description of the shooter's vehicle, with it being parked next to what detectives had described as a shrine to Tupac Shakur. Amir Muhammad was on the visiting list of David Mack's visitors while he was imprisoned. This theory, based on the FBI files and the investigation carried out by Russell Poole, including the court documents by Perez's former cellmate, paint the picture of the LAPD theory of the unsolved murder of Biggie Smalls. The theory claims that allegedly Perez and 2 other officers acted as spotters, using cell phones and radios to track the location of Biggie and Puffy within the party, along with when they were leaving and getting in their trucks. Tupac's former manager, who was also David Mack's former trainer, Leela Steinberg, identified David Mack and Rafael Perez as being at the party the night that Biggie was killed. The FBI files also reveal the officers talking on cell phones prior to the hit taking place. Russell Poole theorized that David Mack had been intercepting police scanners during this time while allegedly coordinating the hit. Kenneth Boagni alleged that Perez had told him how Kevin Gaines was in a car which was supposed to intercept Puffy's car, with a car being identified by witnesses as attempting to intercept the convoy, which was believed to be part of the setup. According to Kenneth Boagni and FBI agent Phil Carson, Amir Muhammad then allegedly carried out the hit while using David Mack's car. Amir Muhammad and David Mack have both denied any involvement in the murder. Amir Muhammad, in a separate incident, was arrested on October 21, 1998 for brandishing his gun next to a vehicle containing his ex-girlfriend Angelique Michelle and her new boyfriend, who were then found dead 3 days later, with the police and coroner ruling it as self-inflicted, with Amir having the prior arrest expunged from his record. The $500 million lawsuit against the LAPD had eventually been dropped by 2008, after an LAPD cop by the name of Greg Kading was assigned to reinvestigate the Biggie murder. Greg Kading from 2006 to 2009 began to reinvestigate the Biggie Smalls murder, where he claimed Russell Poole's LAPD theory was incorrect, claiming that the LAPD had nothing to do with Biggie's death. Greg Kading falsified a confession letter written from the perspective of a deceased Blood gang member by the nickname of Poochie. Poochie's real name was Wardell Faust, who was originally from Kentucky before moving to Compton and becoming a mob Piru. Greg Kading, in his 2011 book Murder Rap, claimed that Suge Knight used Wardell Faust as a hitman, with Kading making allegations of Poochie being behind the 1995 murder of a rapper from the bounty hunter Bloods called William Ratcliffe. Poochie had the reputation of not only being a killer but also a drug dealer, with him previously being arrested for the possession of Class A drugs. A Fruittown Piru by the name of Roderick Cardell Reed, with the street name of Lil Rod, was Poochie's main connect for the narcotics. The FBI documents revealed how the corrupt cops, who were also Blood gang members, were working with some of the blood gangbangers in the assistance of drug trafficking. Transcripts of LAPD Detective Russell Paul's interview on PBS Frontline reads, quote, "To me, we had an organized group of officers that were engaged in organized crime. Plain and simple, we had some dope dealers. There was no question that we had dope dealers on the force. To think that Rafael Perez was the only person that was involved in this was ridiculous. During the course of interviews conducted by the FBI Robbery Division, it was determined that Mac was associated with blood gang members with some possible ties to Death Row Records. One of his partners was Rafael Perez. Mac and him had been involved in an officer-involved shooting in which a narcotics dealer was shot and killed." Unquote. This same incident is listed in the FBI files where David Mack had claimed that Perez had saved his life. The LAPD theory is tied into the gang theory as a connection is made between the drug trafficking within the Rampart division and the bloods that were on the street. Pucci also had a black SS Chevy Impala which was purchased for him by Suge Knight. The argument of the ammo type also comes into discussion with the blood theory, as those who claim the Gecko ammo type is not rare, considering that 2 stores sell it in California and New Jersey, claim that blood gang members could have gotten their hands on it easily. As for the suspect, dressed in a suit and bow tie similar to the Fruits of Islam uniform, the Labyrinth book revealed how in 1996 the Bloods in LA had been using Muslim outfits as disguises while they were carrying out crimes in order to cover them up, with the book reading in reference to a 1996 murder quote, "3 Bloods had gained entrance to the home of a drug dealer they had robbed and shot by posing as Muslims selling bean pies door to door," unquote. Pucci has never been identified on the scene of Biggie's murder, but the cops and Amir Muhammad have been. Greg Kading created a falsified confession letter written from the perspective of Pucci, who had been murdered in 2003, where Kading pretended that Pucci confessed to the murder of Biggie. Greg Kading then presented this falsified confession letter to one of Suge Knight's ex-girlfriends, who he had included in the letter, where she was told she would go to prison and lose her kids if she didn't cooperate with the letter. Based on this information, she had told Kading that Pucci had been paid $25 grand to kill Biggie. The $500 million lawsuit against the LAPD was dropped during this time, thanks to the new task force by Kading. In this video, we took a look into the bullets which were used to murder Biggie Smalls. Being labelled as metal and armor piercing, with it being labelled online as usually authorized for use of military personnel, which is then given to police departments through military surplus. The same ammo type along with the same weapon and car were found at an LAPD officer's home during a search just 9 months after the Biggie murder. Both LAPD Detective Russell Paul, along with FBI agent Phil Carson, were ready to make an arrest based on the findings, but their superiors never allowed them to due to the repercussions that would come to the LAPD. Let me know what your thoughts are on all this in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, smash the thumbs up button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and press that bell button so you can get all the future notifications for when I upload. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.